Lifestyle Pirates with Big J and Adriano.
All right, good morning. Welcome to Lifestyle Pirates. How are we doing, Jeffrey?
I'm good.
Awesome. So we are coming here to you from Canberra this weekend. We are joined by Jeffrey Morgan, the owner and founder of the Lifestyle Program, and we're definitely going to be talking about that over the course of this podcast. But, mate, you're originally from Sydney. We're talking to you in Canberra. Why are you here? What's the story there?
Yeah, well, basically my journey's led me to this point. 6 weeks ago, I decided to move down from Sydney to sunny Canberra.
It's a bit fresh outside, I won't lie to you.
There's -2 on the way here.
I'm surprised you two have got T-shirts on, although it is warm in here.
The heating's cranked up.
Yeah, absolutely. And come down for a National Health and Wellbeing project. I'm Aboriginal. My family's Aboriginal, so it was a great opportunity for myself to grow something that could spread across the whole country, and I'm very passionate about. So to be able to come down, set up the framework for that, and then project manage it and deliver it across the country will be something of a dream that will come true in, say, 2 years' time.
Yep.
Within 2 years' time.
So that means you're going to be here for 2 years?
As long as the framework takes, so about 6 months to about 2 years,
Okay.
And then we'll put that together. And that same sort of framework, I can be bespoke, obviously, whether it's corporate health and wellbeing, leadership programs, kids or schooling programs, community projects, you name it, we'll do it.
How was the move down to Canberra?
It was good. They paid for everything.
Yeah,
they put me up in a service apartment for 4 weeks.
Nice.
Where I went and obviously house hunting and loved it. So it's been amazing. And honestly, I feel like everything's just fallen into place really well. And I've been very comfortable. And I think I needed a change. I had a lot of trauma the last couple of years in my life, and that transition from me being a personal trainer, a nutritionist, and then going down the path of coming back out of my brother's suicide, a few other things that happened in the background that really had a huge impact on my life, and head in a different direction towards business or health and wellbeing consultancy. And here I am, within 2 years down in Canberra in the right place in front of the right people. So life's good.
Yeah, nice. What's it like down here? Is it good vibe, good food, restaurants,
Yeah.
wineries?
I think it's really laid back. Sydney's
Talking to a personal trainer about wineries. That's good.
I'm one, and we'll talk about this later. But I'm massive on balance in your life, and some wine and some cake or whatever it may be is very important to be sustainable and realistic. But in general, Canberra's a country town, a large country town where you see more greenery than you do buildings, and it's very laid back. Sydney's a massive boiling point. I'm travelling back up there at the moment for sport, and I find that every time I go back up, there's so much intensity in everything. There's everything's on steroids. There's constant stimulation around noise, versus down here where it's very laid back, very chilled, and the traffic's just totally different, and the people obviously follow suit.
Is there traffic here?
And no doubt, how'd you travel down? No doubt you found the same thing.
Yeah. I mean, driving around here, there's like 200 metres between you and the car in front. It's crazy. And you're right about the greenery. There's greenery everywhere. It's such a nice place to sort of visit. It's a bit cold though.
Yeah, it's been peaceful. The coldness though, and I noticed with the buildings, I'm pretty sure they're made different from what I've been told from people down here. So obviously more insulation in the buildings, and I'm sleeping better than ever before because that coldness makes you really want to sort of obviously rug up and get into bed. And
It's probably also, you're not as tense because you're not in Sydney. Sydney's a tense place.
Absolutely. People buzzing, beeping you at lights.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Everyone's always wide. Like,
It's a 2-second rule, isn't it, at the traffic lights?
Oh, man.
2 seconds, like 0.2. It's like green, slap, horn. What are you doing? Yeah, always.
What did you say? You want to fight me, dude?
I know. Wait, it's amazing how people can jump out of a car and start a fight over a traffic incident. It's crazy. I'm guilty.
I think that comparison just alone, and there's so many more things that go on in Sydney compared to here, and I've just found it so much more laid back. And 20 minutes out of the city, you're able to live an active lifestyle, climb up the top of the mountain. I walked past kangaroos and emus the other day, and I'm literally talking, they stayed within a couple of metres of myself. They didn't run off from me. just totally different vibe and energy.
Yeah, you don't even get that from people in Sydney. they run off straight away.
Even the animals aren't social distancing during this time, so down here. But it's a beautiful place.
Mate, I think the animals are loving it at the moment because there's not too many people around. So I think that's good. So you are originally from Redfern. You were born in
Correct.
Redfern, grew up in Redfern.
I was born in Paddington Hospital,
Paddington,
which isn't there anymore. But grew up in Everleigh Street, Redfern. And during a really hard time, it was a very, I shouldn't say, it was known for being a destructive community, I suppose, one that brought about a lot of negativity towards the communities or society in general. And there was a lot of trouble and a lot of mayhem and drugs and so forth, crime.
Why
in
is
the
that?
community.
Why is that? Do you think that Everleigh Street was sort of like a hub for that stuff?
I think it's a really great question, but it's a hard one to sum up in a short answer.
Yeah,
but
I'd imagine so.
I think the history of Australia and what happened prior to that through the stolen generations led to a couple of skip generations of education and whether it was around foods, education in general, wealth creation for families so they lived a better life, businesses that were built. They were all then put into this mission/community in Redfern where a lot of dysfunction was there, unemployment, a lot of trauma that was dealt with drugs and alcohol, and it just festered and obviously manifested into this monster that became, Everleigh Street, Redfern, that was known, notorious for the negative side of the community. So I think that's probably trying to sum it up as best I can in a short answer.
When you look back at your sort of upbringing as a child, is it a good time for you? Is it how was it growing up in that area?
I think
with all of that going on around you.
As bad as I've just described that, you got to think about this. It was called the block. So I could walk around 2 blocks from my house and I could walk into anybody's house and make a sandwich. Like literally walk in the house. I knew their names. I knew their kids' names. I knew my auntie's name or whoever I walked in there. And when I say auntie, for us, the extension is if you know the family.
Same with the Italians, we say zia and zio.
Yeah, so the same sort of process. And I could walk around that block and I knew every single person. So it was a really tight-knit community. And when things happened, we all came together. And sometimes for the wrong reasons, obviously. Light a few fires or two. And I think that's... You look back on something like that, I think that's a positive that came out of it. And that community still lives large today. They run a community project now more on a positive level and they've realised the actions are needed to change and they're better educated. So all those things I spoke about have now been sort of fixed and headed in the right direction, I believe. A lot more kids going through uni now, a lot more education, a lot more of the real history coming out. People have access to Google, so they can look it up and go, oh, wow, this actually did happen, and sort of start to empathise with the actions of people in the past and maybe help with the change for the future. So
that's good to hear. Do you think there's enough support from the government for the Indigenous community?
I think there is, but I think there's a lack of understanding towards what happens because a lot of anger's obviously and a lot of distrust. It's like any relationship in the world, a boy-girl. If you break that trust, it's very hard to get back. And the same thing applies to the community now. They don't trust the government. And for to get that back.
Not the only one.
And that's a long, you look at COVID now as another example. And a lot of people are mixed messages. 1 minute you can get together and do this thing, but you can't do this thing.
Yeah, totally.
And the Aboriginal community is the same. So and it's a broader message from the government. The government controls a lot of things, whether it's what's taught in the education systems that then can filter down into the communities to teach the real history of Australia so we can all move forward united and stronger together and happier. And I think that understanding hasn't been found yet. Someone spoke something really well. It was Gretel Colleen, who's on Big Brother, and Gretel was speaking about doing a national get together with Aboriginal leaders that have been identified by all communities of the Aboriginal Australia, and putting them on TV with government and having a conversation, a sound conversation, without anger, to find solutions moving forward as a whole nation, and then implementing what comes out of that conversation as strategies within each community, and then teaching that, whether it's in schools, And I think that's the way forward until we do that in an open forum where people then can say, all right, well, these are the struggles, let's help them. Wow. And the stats maybe they can put some stats up to show and support, the suicide rates, the unemployment rates, the incarceration rates around Aboriginal people, and relatable to why that's happened.
Yeah.
You think about, if I take away your generation or your family and I take away 5 generations, it means that that's 5 generations of dysfunction. Wealth creation, education.
100%.
The whole, and that's just passed on. And instead of passing on trauma, let's start passing on some wisdom to people and change the way we look at things and find a better Australia.
And I guess it gives a voice as well, right? So not only are they looking for answers and education and stuff, but it gives them a voice in terms of the way they want to take the future.
Absolutely.
Which, from what I get from you just said, that's not really on the table at the moment. Is that right?
It's the hardest thing because the government's been in control of this. They can teach everybody the right facts. They're not things that Aboriginal people want. We just want to be treated as humans. We were treated as flora and fauna up until not too long ago. Within the last 30 years. I think that's insane.
Like 89 or something like that.
It was earlier. I think
it was earlier?
63 or 73. And two of them we were classed as flora and fauna. I think that's insane. To be able to treat other humans in any way that's disrespectful. And you got the people have that all lives matter versus Black Lives Matter at the current moment. My answer to that, and I've posted this up, is if all lives matter and any human's being treated inhumane, then let's all stand up and stand against it. And it doesn't matter what colour they are, they're a human being.
100%.
Full stop. So if the struggles against Aboriginal or Black people, Black Lives Matter, because at that time
they're the ones that need a voice right now.
Absolutely, and that's probably the biggest thing. We just need a united voice to stand against what's unjust, and that's the biggest thing. Once we do that, we'll see a happier country straight away. I guarantee.
Let's talk about that voice as well, because I see you do a lot of public speaking. You're on a lot of forums. I don't know how many days in the week that you have in your calendar, but you seem to be very, very busy. Is that one of your kind of missions when you are speaking, when you are on your living out your life, is that you do want to pass this on? You do want to give a voice?
Absolutely. By the time I leave this planet, I want to leave a legacy around health, but also I think I've been blessed with my upbringing and the way I sort of went through things to be able to voice things in a way that hopefully everyone can understand and then merge together. And the more you speak on a level of understanding, of gratitude, of unity, then you'll find a better solution. Too many times we're speaking with anger, and I can understand the anger, but it doesn't create change. And if you tell me, hey, why didn't you do the dishes, as an example? It doesn't, or if there's an issue with the podcast, as an example, and I hadn't plugged the mic in, but you say, hey, why didn't you plug the mic in? But I never knew about it. It's not creating a solution. It's just screaming out.
You put up a wall before you've even started the dance.
I give that example all the time. Like, if someone has never done something ever before and they've never been shown, how do they know how to do it?
Absolutely.
I remember when I was in the UK, I was in the process of buying a house and I had to do a check.
Yep.
I had to write a check. And when you open up, obviously, your bank account, you get a checkbook. But how many times do you use checks nowadays?
Never used it.
And I didn't know how to write a check. And my mum kind of looked at me and she kind of raised her eyebrow and I had this wry smile and I was like, I've never been shown how to write a check.
Yeah.
And obviously, if you're putting a deposit down on a house, it's the biggest
Absolutely.
amount of things. There's more zeros on there that you've normally written at that time of your
There's
life.
a lot of pressure.
But she was like, look, if you've never been shown how to do it, I'll show you how to do it.
Absolutely.
And you learn.
Yeah.
But it's amazing, to your point, if no one shows you how, you're never going to know.
Yeah,
And
my
if you-
apprenticeship
if you-
was very different.
I can imagine, yeah. But if you're scared to ask questions, you're never going to learn.
It's true.
And that's the thing, finding that, and that's the two ends of the spectrum, finding the balance in between, because Aboriginal people are very angry, and I hear it all the time, and I see it on my social media and the way they scream it out. I'm all for it. I want change too, but we're not going to get change by putting boxing gloves on and fighting somebody that's not not Aboriginal to try and achieve an outcome and say I'm better than yourself because I punched you up. It's more about finding a solution that everyone understands the situation and goes, that's unfair to another human being. Let's move forward by creating this solution and be happier about it. So just show people how to do it. And I've been showing my own culture how to conduct yourself towards getting more traction towards what we're trying to obviously educate people towards. And as I said, the education's there. Google it yourself.
Yeah. Well, it's funny you mentioned gratitude. We've had, I'd say, in the last few podcasts that we've had, a few of our kind of guests have mentioned about gratitude. Jacqueline Morrison mentioned it. She has a ritual every day. She will write down what she is grateful for, and there's power in actually writing it down. And she has to get to a sense where she's almost in tears for it to filter in. You know, we do the same. You know, if we have our ups and downs like everybody else, and we have a little WhatsApp group, and it's like, right, what are you grateful for? I think that's now become a theme.
Yeah.
Another theme that's come out as well is actually having role models. And I guess a question to you is, in your community and in your world, because you didn't have the easiest upbringing, and maybe if it's okay, we'll touch on that. Who were your role models? How did you see the light?
Yeah, I was very lucky that my grandmother whipped my butt
She
quite often. And
what for? What would she whip you about for?
not going to school. So,
Okay.
and it was just, I was learning the values, morals and beliefs of my environment. And what I was learning was wrong. Well, I know it was having a huge impact on other people and in a negative way. And that, when I look back on it, that upsets me. But at the same time, I became a product of the environment.
Yeah.
So she had a huge influence on, hey, make sure you come home and eat. Didn't eat. And our community was like that. We weren't educated on malnutrition, what was the right foods to eat. And she was cooking the right foods at the time, making sure I got to school quite often. She'd walk me there, even though I knew she was very old. So I had a lot of respect. And during those walks, she'd always conversate to myself. And I look back on it now, and what she was doing, she was just wiring my brain to start to change what I was learning on the left side to the right side. And I think that's had a huge impact on myself. And as a kid, one night I went to walk into a pub, and Anthony Mundine's dad, Tony Mundine, "How's Jeff? Why are you going in the pub?" I said, "I'm going in to get drunk, pick up a girl." And he's like, "Mate, what if you could stay out of the pub and not get drunk and pick up a girl? Would you not get drunk anymore?" And I said, "Oh, I'd still have a drink here and there if we won the grand final." He goes, "All right, let's do a deal." I said, "All right, mate." He goes, "You stay out here, pick up a girl, and we're good as gold." I said, "All right, sweet." So we sat there, and same thing. He had a good conversation around, why are you doing things? Look at Chalk. Look at what he's doing with his life. You're just as good a footballer. Do something with your life. Don't get around this. You're going to head down the wrong path. By the end of the night, I picked up a girl, and as I was walking off, he goes, "Hey." And I turned around, and he goes, "We got a deal?" And I said, "All right, deal." And I enjoy life. If I win a grand final, I'll get together with friends. I have a drink, but I don't need to slosh myself every single weekend.
Yeah.
I must say, I've never really seen you aggressive or upset or anything else like that. You've always got a very nice sort of demeanour about you.
Thanks, mate.
Is that because his team wins all the time?
Yeah. He's a born winner. So I'm going to bring it back a little bit now. So 12 years old, you left school.
Yeah.
You lost both your parents to cancer.
Yeah.
One brother to suicide and one to a preventable illness.
Yeah, correct.
That happened, right? How are you such a beacon of energy and positivity now, having gone through all of those traumas? And how do you pull yourself out of that?
I think the hardest thing is to realise that I think the traumas made me realise that life's short, taking you back to gratitude. What was I grateful for now? I was grateful for every single breath that I took. In amongst all that, I've made some bad choices in my life, and it's killed me. It has a huge effect on yourself. It builds a neurological pathway. You hear a song, it makes you reflect upon that.
Music's really powerful like that, isn't it?
Absolutely. It's like an ear, and those synapses you then go looking for because that's your craving. You wake up in the morning, you think, oh, this is how I'm built. So what I'm doing is I'm going to play that same music because I know that makes me feel good. But really what it's doing is taking me back to a time when it was really traumatic and triggers myself. So what I've had to do is look at, what am I grateful for? Even relationship breakups or things that have been bad in my life, right, as an example, and go back and say, instead of saying, hey, I'm upset at that person, what did that person teach me on that journey? Because we always look at, oh, they were bad, that's why I got rid of them or whatever else. You didn't get with that person because they were a bad person. You got with them because you've seen some really good things and value as a person to yourself. And I look and I've changed and rewired myself. And I think that's the biggest thing. I've been grateful. What am I grateful for my interactions, with this person versus the next person? No matter, I heard people steal money off myself as an example, but that person was a good friend until that point. What did they teach me on that journey?
Yeah.
And maybe why did they do that, and what could I help them? How could I help them become better in the future? That includes myself. Looking at my actions in the past, I've done some stupid things that I regret.
We all have.
Yeah, man. And I wish I could take back. It's something very close to you and I that I regret massively, but I can't change. But what was the value that I got out of that situation? Because do you wish sometimes you can change it? 100%.
Yeah.
Can you change it? Maybe. But what you can do is get on with your life, find every bit of positivity out of that situation and life, and move forward. And if you move forward and that person, that a new business starts, a new kid's born because you lost a kid to some, I had a friend who lost a kid at 1 year of age because of a bacteria, and they're able to have a new kid, then it's a positive thing.
Yeah.
We've got to look at what we can do rather than what's happened already.
Yeah.
You can't change.
It's great that every sort of trauma that you've been through, you've able to take away something and learn from it and then move forward in a positive step. Like there's lessons to be learned in that 100%.
Little tip for everybody that watches this. Try to look for 3 positives out of every negative. And even my brother's suicide taught, I look at it and I say, mate, you have to cherish every single moment on this planet. Secondly, look out for everyone that means something to yourself. So if even a Facebook, someone I've befriended on Facebook or they've added me and I see they're going through a hard time, I'll reach out to them now, because what's the point of being a friend on Facebook if you're not going to have that little conversation of, hey, are you okay? Like a simple couple of words that might actually save that person's life. And I think, look for 3 positives out of every single negative. Live in gratitude, because you can't live in anger and depression or sadness when you're constantly looking to live in gratitude. They can't coexist.
I had this conversation with someone just this week, actually, and I don't know if this is out there. So if it is, flick us a message at the studio. But I'd like to see, in essence, an evolution of your internal body, right?
Oh, that'd be unbelievable.
Of if a body that holds on to stress and anger, and how it affects the blood flow, your heart rate, all that kind of stuff, how you function. And then compare that to someone that perhaps, looks at the daily gratitude, is more forgiving, looks at life in the opposite way. You'd have to go 2 ends of the spectrum. But what does that look like? What does it do to your body, to your mind? And that, I think that'd be really, I'd find that fascinating to see how those two would compare. Because you're not telling me that if you do hold on to stress, anger or the negativity, that doesn't have an impact. Surely it must do.
Absolutely. Because then you're wired a particular way.
Yeah, you're right.
There is... I've read a lot of studies.
You right, mate?
I know.
Far out. All right.
Yeah.
Canberra weather, I already getting there.
It's too cold.
You end up wired a particular way based around those experiences. And as I was saying before, how you wake up in the morning and what you do firstly, in the morning will either dictate the end of your day. And what I mean by that, if you wake up and, I went through a breakup as an example, and I know that this song is going to trigger me about that person in the past, I'm going to go back and live in that past. And once I'm there, more than likely my whole day I'm going to be in the back end going, I made a bad decision, I should have, this, that and the other. And it's all negative.
It's true.
Versus waking up and say, hey, I'm grateful for life. So a good example is I wake up, it's pouring rain. People go, oh, shit, it's raining outside. For me, I just jump up and say, hey, I'm grateful to be alive. How good does the rain sound? And just that little rewire, people don't understand the difference between that. There are studies that I've read and there are videos on YouTube that show the difference between both. And there's a really good one currently of Bill Gates presenting to the CIA around how minds interact when they become extremists versus when they're not, and what part of the brain's actually activated and how it lights up versus those that aren't. and how they were trying to impact that sort of motion. So I think it's very powerful and something that I love looking at and highly recommend to other people, because it does show you the happiness you can find by waking up and writing down or saying what you're grateful for.
Yeah.
And that would be the first thing. As soon as you wake up, sit there and just pause for a moment. Set your alarm 5 minutes earlier, jump up, sit down, almost meditate, and just think about 3 things that you're really grateful for, and take those into the day and try and make them 3 different things. A lot of times we just think, oh, I'm grateful for my family or friends. You're grateful to wear your clothes. You're grateful to have food. You're grateful to live in the place that you do. You're grateful, look at it for eyesight, for the hearing. You know, people don't have things that we do have. And once you do that, you start to rewire your neurological responses totally in a different way.
We really do take a lot for granted,
Absolutely.
especially myself, just like what you said, just us sitting here in a room having this conversation. Like, I'm grateful for that,
Absolutely. Awesome.
that we can still talk. It's amazing,
It is. And when you do that, people say you're very deep, and I'm like, no, I'm very grateful.
Yeah.
Because there's someone right now out on those cold streets that's probably thinking about where they're going to sleep tonight. So for me, I'm just very blessed. Or we're in a studio, 3 friends talking, having good conversation that hopefully impacts and inspires somebody to achieve whatever they want to in their life. I think that's, you live in that gratitude all the time, constantly. You drive in a car, I'm grateful that I've got a car. I'm grateful, sometimes I hear a noise in my car and I'm like, whatever. I'm blessed to be driving the car that I do, or someone has to walk everywhere. So.
Nice car, but it could have been an Italian one, though.
I'll make sure my next one is.
So for people that have got no idea, because I think people sometimes they struggle to know where to start, and there's an expectation you've got to go from 0 to hero straight away.
Yeah.
So walk us through your daily routine.
Yeah. I'd wake up in the mornings and exactly what I just spoke about. First thing, think about 3 things that you're grateful for.
Yep.
And when you think about it, really think about what that looks like for yourself. Is it a goal that you want to achieve, and how grateful you are that you're able to do that? Somebody may have to get pushed around in a community that can't even speak for themselves, can't move their arms or something of that nature. And I know that might be taking it to, I'm just showing you an extreme of it, but when you start to do that, you wire yourself from the get-go. I then jump in the shower. Once I'm in the shower, I've got a portable speaker on.
Oh, I knew it. I was going to say, tunes on, singing.
I bought it from Officeworks. It was $20-$30. I can't remember. And it's waterproof. Bang that on, couple of good tunes and vibing tunes that really lift you up. Put a little love in it.
What's your shower mix?
Deep house. I'm
Oh,
deep
yeah,
house.
nice.
But I put a lot of put a little love in your heart, and I just get this. I cannot sing to save my life.
Mate, give it another go. We've got
Don't worry, I've got auto-tune. I can fix that for you, Jeff.
What is it? Photoshop. Do something with the tunes, because I cannot sing.
Yeah.
But I get in there and I vibe.
In the shower, you can, though.
100%. In your car with your friends.
Yeah, for sure.
You become Beyonce and you're rocking it, right? Yeah. But if you turn the music down, you hear the worst voice.
I swear I sounded better than that. I just got to warm up.
100%. So once I've done that, straight into a training session. And I always shower because I find that the shower wakes me up, gets me going. I train first thing in the morning because then it's done and dusted for the day. The rest of my day is done.
Started off positive.
100%.
Well, that's the third positive.
Yeah, and that's what I'm doing. I'm trying to manifest that positivity the whole time. I come back into the house. I eat good foods based around what will, obviously give me more energy, give me more life, all structured and based around the lifestyle program. But I still enjoy life every now and again, meaning I might have French toast in the morning as an example.
That's a splurge.
Yeah.
For me, 3 bottles of wine at breakfast is a splurge. Nah.
that's a very good cheat day.
And then I move into my day, and my day is already structured from the day before. So I know exactly what I'm doing, and it's always geared around what I want to achieve in my life. So for me, I want to live in the sun. And what I mean by living in the sun is I don't ever want to see winter unless I choose to do so. So for me, come summer, I want to live in Europe, in Greece probably, and I'll travel out from Greece and experience life out there. And I'm well on my way to doing that. And that's been manifested constantly. When I wake up, that's what I'm driven towards. And that makes me happy. That drives my success and also improves my quality of life. And they're the 3 pillars of the lifestyle program that I transition in, because I'm teaching you what I love doing. By the end of the day, that could end up at 9 at night. Could end up at 3 in the afternoon. After that, I just wind down and do whatever I feel like. Whether it's hiking, whether it's
a bit of you time.
A bit of you time.
Yeah.
If I'm traveling in a car, I'll always listen to something like Audible. And I'm listening to something, same thing around those specific goals to see that sun constantly on a regular basis and get a nice tan.
Yeah, of course.
And just lay up and enjoy.
John's got
life.
a nice one right now. Don't have a look at him.
Straight out of England.
Absolutely, yeah. It's not bad. 2 tones of white here.
Yeah, transparent.
But that's the ultimate goal. So the whole day's driven by my happiness, by my success, and by the quality of life that I want to live. And then your actions are based around that.
Amazing to hear.
Everything every bit of substance that you want to become.
Yeah. So that goal of follow the sun.
Yeah.
Did you tell people that?
I've told everyone I come across, because I'm manifesting. If I say, I think I want to chase the sun, it already diminishes that in half, because things like, maybe I'm going to do it or maybe I'm not. I'm like, I'm going to chase the sun. And for
it's
me,
happening. Yeah,
it's happening.
100%.
And that was scary when you said it for the first time? Like,
No,
did you go, I'm going to live...
I think growing up in Everleigh Street's scary.
Yeah, a lot more than thinking about chasing the sun.
So on that, because, I mean, I've only been here for 10 years. So in terms of a time frame, when are we talking? Because I mean, I'm around the corner from Redfern now, and there's some nice places. There's some fabulous apartments.
It's a lot different now.
What time frame are we talking? 80s, 90s?
Oh, back when it was all...
When it was...
Yeah, it was 80s, 90s.
In the 80s, 90s. Okay,
80s,
so not
90s.
actually that long ago.
And you got to understand, a lot of my values, morals and beliefs, or how I was designed and programmed, my software was from there.
We're a product of our environment, aren't we?
So the morals, values and beliefs that were there, I started to question as to how was he driving that car but not doing what I'm doing. So what does he do different, and what does that look like? And for me growing up, obviously in the Aboriginal community, being known as an Aboriginal, there's a lot of racism back then. And you get teased at school and everything else. That trend, and no doubt, even when I was a kid, there's a lot of wog. You playing wog ball, so soccer was wog ball, and that racism, literally that was massive in Australia. And unfortunately, it's gotten better.
Yeah.
And obviously social
Still
media.
room for improvement.
Social media now. A lot
Social
of people,
football, in all fairness.
has brought out a lot of, bombed out a lot of people who have that sort of stance, and I think people are starting to become more educated, and this next generation coming through, I think will be a start of really positive change.
So when did the goal of Chase the Sun, when did that set?
Honestly, probably 2003.
Right, okay.
Yeah. So I was going through a hard time in my life, and I was making a choice between the old lifestyle that I grew up in, and saying, mate, something's got to change, because if not, you're going to end up dead, or you're going to end up spending the rest of your life maybe in jail. So for
as
me...
a statistic,
as a statistic. And I just went, how can I rewire myself? And I started to educate myself as much as possible. And it happened prior to that as well, but I was doing computer courses, MYOB, business education, personal trainer, became a nutritionist, did a degree. More so by 2003, when I started to make that transition, the opportunity arose to go back to uni, and I went, mate, I'm going to do this. That's it. I put my foot down, and same thing. You're going to chase the sun, do it. Hey, a professor walked in and said, hey, mate, we're doing a thing in regards to uni courses. Would you be interested? I said, what's available? Mate, nutrition, bang, see you later. And the rest was history. So 4 years later... happy days. And by then I'd really started to see the transitioning occur. And I went, man, I'm never looking back.
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah.
I'm going to keep moving forward from this position onwards. And I don't want to see anything of the past other than when I go back to lift somebody else up out of it.
So 2003, you've set the goal.
Yeah.
2020, you said you're not a million miles away.
Yeah.
So where are you at the moment? How many months a year are you spending overseas? Because I noticed from your website, you've actually got clients all over the world that do this lifestyle program.
Absolutely.
So it's obviously enabling you to do that. So how many months?
Well, it's a bit hard at the moment with COVID.
In general, traveling?
In general, yeah.
I'd usually spend probably about 6 weeks
Yeah.
overseas, and usually it come like June, July, August-ish.
Well,
I'd travel
just in
over.
time for our winter, hey?
Yeah. So I'd cut, and that's what brought it about. I went, man,
How good is it? Chase summers.
Yeah, and I came back and it was warm again. I went, and
Yeah,
it started
I
to
can
get
get used to
warmer,
this,
and
yeah.
I go, this is an idea.
Yeah,
And
you know, it's a great idea. Let's move to Canberra. It's fucking 0 degrees.
-2 at one point.
I
we're
love
driving,
it.
-2.
Chase the sun, and I'm living in Canberra,
I know,
and it's going to help me chase the sun. It's quite ironic,
Yeah, it's
isn't
brilliant.
The reason for asking the question, because I think again, it's a long term play. So you've had quite a BHAG, a big hairy audacious goal, you know, which is quite different.
Yeah.
So you've gone, right, I want to do this. You've done the education, and there's been incremental steps. And even now, you know, years and years on, you're 6 weeks.
Yep.
How many weeks a year would you like to spend overseas?
Probably 6 months.
6 months.
I'd say 6 months, good 6 months.
Yeah.
So spring-ish, when it starts to warm up here, I'd stay here until it starts to cool down, and I'd cut.
Yeah.
And I'd literally live over there 6 months. And the intention is to have a base, and I
Yeah.
think Greece is my base. I love Santorini, I love Mykonos, not for the partying side.
Good place for photos, though. Yeah, for sure. You know, do that training on the end of the cliff, overlooking the water, doing that Zen shit.
Not-
I can
not
see a
too-
bit of those, mate.
Not too close these
Budgie
days.
smugglers.
A lot of people are unfortunately pushing the limits to get photos for social
I
media.
know, it's a bit ridiculous,
And
eh?
they've been, like, so many people have died. It's crazy,
Yeah.
right? So, but yeah, I think it's a good option of obviously having that zen. And at the opposite end of the scale, if I do want to, you know, party or have have some friends come over from Australia, by all means, I'll be more than happy to hit scorpions at Mykonos.
Yeah.
Scorpio.
So that's my sort of end goal as well. You know, to live 6 months here, 6 months in Italy as a base. And then just, you know, anywhere I want to go, you know, just, you know, I'd go to, like last time Vanessa and I traveled to Italy, we were in we're in north of Italy in Avelengo.
Yep.
And we thought, fuck it. So we drove up to Austria to get a schnitzel
Wow.
in a classic Alfa Romeo and then drove back to Italy.
Wow. See, and that's why I'd love to live in Europe.
In Australia, you drive a fucking 12 hours, you're just still in Australia.
to get a hot dog.
Yeah, exactly. I know.
It's crazy, right?
And what have you seen? Roos. That's it. A lot of them on the road.
I think Europe's such a there's so much culture and diversity.
Yeah, the diversity
between
of it is
countries.
massive.
Yeah, and there's so many countries I haven't seen. I've seen a lot of those. When I go on a 6-week holiday, I usually spend a week in each country. Last time we went to Spain, Italy, Dubai, and Spain, Italy, and Greece.
Yeah.
And it was, it was absolutely beautiful. You know, I had a absolute ball, and it was a last minute thing. Jess at the time had said, "Mate, come overseas with me."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Oh, you know," they were going with their family, and I wasn't too. I was like, "Whatever." For me, I think a week out, I said, if I make X amount of money, I'm going to head over because I use that money to head over.
Yeah. You set that bar like at $50. If I make $50, fuck it, I'm out of here.
But you know what I did? I really manifested. I said, we spoke about it. I said, mate, I'm going to make this much and then I'm coming. And she's like, you sure? And I'm like, mate, I'm going to make it. Watch this happen. And I manifested it and it actually transitioned and made well beyond that.
Yeah.
And she's like, well, let's go. And I was like, all right, bang.
Rocking.
And I think I booked my holiday like 2 weeks out.
Yeah,
And
nice.
they already had their holiday planned and I just sort of tacked on the back end of it. And that was just like unbelievable times. And same thing, there's a combination of partying / enjoying life where we
You
just
need to
went
take
and watched
it in.
the sun come
Yeah.
down.
Brilliant.
Go down and come up. And I think, man, it was unbelievable.
Yeah.
And to think in that process around living my life in Greece and then being able to just jump on a plane an hour away and go
Brilliant,
and have
eh?
a schnitzel
Yeah.
and spend
got a
the
beefer.
weekend and come back and then recover for 4 days.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
And then recover. I think that to be able to come back and know that you're so close to so many adventures, it's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Hire a nice car, get up through the,
Stelvio Pass, do the mountain runs.
It'd be unbelievable, and I'm all for that.
Yeah.
I grew up racing go-karts and racing a few other cars.
Really?
Yeah. So I loved it actually.
Yeah.
I was quite.
Explains why you got a sporty car. Yeah. All right. So you like a bit of adrenaline rush in the old car, right?
Were you any good?
I was really good.
You're sitting in the studio with us, mate. Fuck yeah.
It must be good.
This is actually the back of a boat, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
I think the biggest thing for me back then, same thing, my father, he was a baker. And my mother just did a bit of this, a bit of that, here and there. And I think the biggest thing, we didn't have the money. I had opportunities as a kid. I represented at soccer. I played really high-level soccer. And unfortunately, I got an opportunity at West Ham at the time. And the only bloke overseas was Craig Johnson. But the money just to get there and then stay there, and our family couldn't afford it. So that just breezed past me. And you look back and think, what if?
Yeah.
But at the same time, what was the opportunities that created, or what was the positivity that created out of that situation? And the same thing applies with the go-karting. I had an opportunity to go into it, but I had to buy my own go-kart. Mate, the only way I was going to buy my own is if I borrowed some money off someone. And when I say borrowed, probably borrowed it without their knowledge.
Yeah, without fair enough.
It weren't going to happen. So I was too young, and that same thing, it just fell by the wayside.
So back then, right? So you lost your parents fairly young. Who was a role model in Everleigh when you were growing up? Who did you aspire to be?
I think Shane Phillips, who became Community Australian of the Year. It was quite funny because I was doing a run along Lake Burleigh Redfern down here at Canberra, and they got all the Australians of the Year on these poles. And he was on one of the poles, so I took a photo and sent it back to him. I go, look at this fella. Yeah. And he's like, oh, shame job. And I said, mate, there's nothing of it. That's unbelievable. You think about where our community was and what you've done for it. And that's what I was talking about before. Sort of forgot to sort of touch on it a little bit more. But they created a group training session for young kids to come in at 6 a.m. every morning before school, boxing program. And it meant that they created discipline around training, which then also transitioned into the rest of their life. Because remember, how you wire yourself becomes a part of your DNA, and that DNA of discipline will then go into your schooling or whatever it is that you choose to do in life. So Shane was massive in that sense, and he was starting to create change within our community. They created what was called CDEP, which gave employment to Aboriginal people. They got a grant and they started employing people to clean up the community, paint over the graffiti, fix up the smashed windows, and obviously there was more pride in the sense of who we were and who we wanted to represent, rather than being looked at as savages, I suppose. And I think Shane transitioned and changed me quite a lot. And Uncle Dave Bell was pushing me, and I ended up going back to football and signing a contract at South. For me, that was massive. For him, he kept pushing me and hey, come and meet me and let's train and let's box and. Did you run today? You're going to run today? All right, make sure once you've run, ring me up and let me know you've done it. That sort of thing, I didn't realise what he was doing at the time, but he was having a huge impact on my life around trying to role model myself. And I think I'm forever grateful to those two men in our community. So, and my grandmother, obviously, of course. So.
Well, she kept you fed and watered, yeah?
Oh, yeah, and made sure
and
my
butt
school was red whenever I didn't get to school.
I had a grandmother the same. Yeah. It was a broom handle.
Oh, mate. And she had a good kick. She used to limp everywhere, and then, mate, I was like, how did you get that kick up? Because I'd love to know. You limp everywhere.
Yeah, I know way. It's
All of a sudden, I got the hardest
and
kick
stuff, and then bang, without a doubt. Whoosh.
Well, Bruce Lee jumped out of the cupboard or something, but unbelievable.
So would you say that the values and the beliefs and I guess the discipline you've learned from people in your community, the people that helped you along the way, you've put that into the lifestyle program? Because I did notice that you have these 3 pillars which you touched on, but let's repeat it because I think it's important. Yep. Talk us about the lifestyle program. How did it come about? Yeah. What is it?
Growing up in that community, growing up in Redfern, seeing all the health issues, diabetes, cancers, heart disease, people overdosing from drugs. I knew a lot of it was unhealthy, mental health, lack of education. what could I start to do? It's the same thing Shane did around the CDEP. I started to do it around health, read just magazines, bump into people. Jeff Fennick at the time back then had a conversation, and to now these days we're really good friends. It's quite ironic. Like I was just a kid getting in trouble as a, that was talking to a world champion at the time who now has become a great friend, and I trained his daughters and his wife. It's the transition because of the manifestation around those health issues is how the lifestyle program came about. So I was like, how can I impact my community in a positive way around healthier choices and education towards those choices? That then obviously grew into a passion around training and healthy lifestyles and a wider community, and obviously the impact I had led into the online program, which allowed people to live a sustainable, enjoyable and way of positive and good healthy lifestyle practices and habits and rituals. So that would be the back end of the program and what we sort of stand for.
So how do you, when you're talking to people on the program, so let's call them clients, would you refer to them as clients?
Yeah.
How do you talk to them about what the three pillars are for them personally? Because success is different for so many people. Happiness is different for so many people. How do you uncover that?
So we do a little questionnaire, and that questionnaire allows us to identify what is important to them, what success looks like for that individual. So they might want to start a small business as an example, and we then help them with the steps to create that. Around their quality of life, they want to just live a healthy life. They might not want to lose a particular weight and have abs as an example. They just want to live I actually did an assessment before this and had a video conference with a client, and that client just wanted to live a healthier life. She was sick of not feeling good about herself, not having the energy, and I think that's the most important thing, doing that questionnaire, then doing the video conference, and I try and do it with nearly every single person in the program. Sometimes I have to do it as a whole and a bucket of the new intake, and then we sort of have a quick conversation around what's that look like. So to have that questionnaire, what's that look like for yourself around the quality of life? What's it look like for yourself success-wise? What's it look like for yourself around your happiness? What's your happiness? Because your happiness, my happiness, we're all different.
Absolutely.
And we're built different. For me, I want to chase that sun. For you might want to go back to England. There's not much sun there.
Yeah, that's a joke.
I love the milky complexion.
And everyone's totally different. So identifying that will allow them to manifest the same thing that I've spoken about constantly, wiring yourself a particular way. And once I know that that's their individual goal, what I do is I'm constantly wiring that person through our conversations and getting them to then implement what we've spoke about into their life. And once they've done that over a period of time with our support, then it becomes something that they do naturally, and then we move on, transition into the next component. And a lot of times you'll get people that learn really fast and transition. I had people in 6 weeks lose 30 that's a lie. In 9 weeks lose 30 kilos. I think that's too much and too soon.
Not sustainable.
Yeah, and then having that conversation with that person versus someone who's willing to do it. And Jess was a classic example of that, where she wanted to eat around healthy lifestyle practices, where she still enjoyed the Italian food, family get-togethers, and her transition took about 2 years, but she lost 20% body fat, and her body composition changed, and that's what the lifestyle program is about.
Yeah.
It's about fitting it into the individual's lifestyle, and everyone's totally different.
Yeah, 100%. Fitting that into a panino.
but it's true. You got to enjoy like a balance. Unless you have the
I
intent.
tip the scales way too much one way. Big time.
I do 80-20. So, and a lot of people say, 80-20.
That's how I mix my drinks.
Mate, I'm just straight Frangelico, mate.
Frangelico.
He's a man of culture.
It's a nice, just smooth sort of James Bond style drink, I call it.
I've never heard Frangelico once on a Bond film.
Oh, really?
It's
Shaking
Bondo.
nuts.
Bondo.
Shaking nuts, too. Mate, yeah, it's finding the balance in life and the individual's life. And that's the beauty of the lifestyle program. And we say to people, hey, look, if you're coming in for a 10-week transformation, you're in the wrong program. And I get people that step away from it. And as much as I might seem to want the money, it's not what I stand for. And if I don't stand for that, then why am I practicing that? And even educating the person who lost the 30 kilos. Yeah, I'm going great. I'm really happy. What are you doing? What are you eating at the moment? And they're just having one shake a day. That's not sustainable. As soon as you go back to normal eating,
You're
what's
going to
going to
balloon up.
happen? You're going to put it back on. You're going to go back to what you knew before that. So let's educate yourself. And if that takes 6 months, beautiful. If it takes 6 years, all good by the end of the 6 years.
You're still making progress.
You've changed and transitioned. That's the most important thing. Those deposits to your health on a regular basis. So you've got sweat equity, or what I call it, on a constant basis, where you're putting in around your training, your mindset, your lifestyle habits, your nutrition. Then everything starts to change and transition at your pace.
Yeah,
and that's the most important thing. Is some people learn quick, some don't.
I can imagine when you're giving your clients these questionnaires, because I can imagine there's a range of people. You might have some kids still that might be obviously a similar kind of journey to yourself in the early piece, because I think that's a lot of what you want to put back in. And then you've got people that are maybe other end of the life cycle.
Yeah.
And I can imagine these three pillars, these questions, they're not always thinking about this. So that someone might not have actually taken the time to think, what actually makes me happy?
Absolutely.
What do I want quality of life to look like? What is sustainable?
Yep.
Because they're on that rat race. They're on that treadmill of life, just churning out every time. So I can imagine it can be quite an emotional process as well for some people.
Absolutely. One thing I identified, and I got a lot of results, and you look at the website as an example, or some of the posts that I put up on the social media around the transformations. And now I've been asked, they're photoshopped. And for me, that's a compliment. To know that person actually believes that photo has been photoshopped is unbelievable. Something I would never do. I think it's celebrating that person's absolute journey. And I think that's... So I'm very proud in a sense when someone says that in one way, rather than saying, living in gratitude and thinking, wow, it's so unbelievable that transition that person doesn't believe it. How good is that? And really proud of the work that you do. Going back to what was the actual question?
It was more around, I can imagine you're uncovering a lot of maybe some of the emotional pieces for some people. They've not taken the time to think about what makes them happy, what do they want their quality of life, and it was just...
And I think that's the second thing on the back end of that. A lot of people have trauma in their life. And if for me, I was to focus on all my trauma, I'd probably live sad for the rest of my life, because I've had enough to cover 20 people.
It'll impact your health.
100% in your quality of life. So what I do is I get the person to sit down, and we do what we call a bit of an exercise around what's in your invisible backpack. And they're like, what do you mean? I said, what do you carry around right now that impacts your life? And they're like, I don't know, I don't get what you're talking about. I said, so relationship breakups, business failures, people that have passed away in your life, whatever's impacted you. They're like, oh, this, that, and the other. So we do that drill. They put in what's impacted them themselves and what's the best outcome in the current situation. I can't bring my brother back after suicide as much as I'd love to, but what's the best situation I can get out of that position?
Yeah.
And for me, it's to make sure that I'm grateful for every single day that I take a breath that he didn't. And once I do that, I've changed and rewired how I look at it as, why me? And started to obviously look at, a better lifestyle.
Well, you put in a
myself.
definition to the why.
Absolutely.
And a positive one.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And look, this is also a lesson of life. What's the lessons that it teaches you rather than looking at what's the negativity side of things? And once you look at that, you can create a solution that gives you the best option for the rest of your life. Doesn't mean that you're going to be upset and sad at times. Brother's birthday rolls around. Of course, I'm going to be sad that he's not here, but I'm not going to live on that every single day of that I'm on this planet. I might wake up in the morning, live in gratitude, have a cry that morning about him not being there for his birthday, but then move on in life going towards my happiness, because in the end, we all deserve to be happy.
Yeah, you got an obligation now to live two lives.
Absolutely, and almost, literally in that sense. And I think once you do that, you start to empower yourself to live a better quality of life and live in that gratitude and happiness that we speak about.
Have you ever had someone that you couldn't help on the program?
Oh, look, people are at different points. There's different stages of change, and you'll find that some people in that pre-contemplation stage, when they come and say, I'm ready for change and so forth, and that's fine.
Look, we're not training after this, man. Relax. You don't have to.
I
He's playing the long game.
I know.
Yeah, he's
He's
like,
thinking,
I think I'm going to be sick later.
Just going to say, let's train later on. I'll pretend I'm a bit sick now, and I'll be right at the end of the conversation.
Bit dusty, isn't it?
I think the question again.
When
have you had someone that you couldn't help?
Oh yeah, and I think you've got to understand that people are just at different points of change in their life, and you can only do your best to help them. And then I let it go. Same thing. Go for goal. Dude, I think he's trying to get a rub on the back.
I reckon. I know. You're too far away, mate. Social distancing.
Social
we're
distancing
doing
at the moment.
Some people just, I suppose
And I'm
they put
glad
up
you're
a brick
coughing
wall.
that way too.
Thanks, man. I thought you were dabbing before, like doing those ones. But yeah, some people, I suppose, they're just not ready
Absolutely.
to take on that challenge.
They're in that pre-contemplation stage. So even they say, I want to lose weight, they just don't know how.
Yeah.
And we've spoken about this before in this conversation where you do have great intent, but you don't know the steps too. And that was me. As a kid, I had great intent and said, I want to change. It took me until I was about 33 years of age before I changed my life. I went, man, this can't continue because I'm heading down a path of destruction. I need to do something about it, and now's the time to do it. Otherwise, you're going to waste the rest of your life. Let's make the rest of your life the best of your life by changing at this point in time. And I chose at that point to change. So once I identify that I can't, help that person in the sense of trying to slow them down, and if they can't identify that and say, oh, I'm not, closed off, shut down, I just let it go.
Yeah.
It's as much as I want to reach out, I just can't save.
Yeah, you can't take on that baggage.
Invisible
you can't put it in your backpack, man.
Invisible backpack, and that's the biggest thing, because if I did, I'd have I'd be weighed down so heavy in this thing called life that I'd be drowning in it. So I'd rather just let it go and do. Work with those that want to change and also do me.
Yeah.
And do you are you engaging with all of your clients in the program, or do you have a team? Because I can imagine this takes up quite a bit of your time as well. And if you're trying to continue and you're, chase the sun and all that, singing in the shower and all that kind of stuff, like you personally reach a saturation, right?
Yeah, I think, and we're getting to that point where it's becoming pretty crazy. We've got 13,000 in the online program at the moment and growing.
Can we just get that round of applause button?
Yeah. Okay.
That's
Oh, well, no, sorry,
he's laughing at me.
How many times?
Sorry,
have
it's
you
not
used it?
it's not my one.
I think
Just stop there 2 seconds. So when did you launch?
we launched the online realistically 2 years ago.
And you got 13,000 people on the program.
13,000.
Mate, that's amazing. Really well done.
And
That's awesome.
The point of difference to these clients is that I get in there and you get my own phone number. So you can message me, you can contact me. I don't care if you're in Germany or Dubai or wherever it is. And I have clients all across the world. And I interact with them as much as possible. And I try not to do too much of it. I try and jump in at times and just post and then interact with as many sort of questions that will be is coffee good? I'll answer the question so everyone can see that as an example.
Is it good?
Yeah, coffee's fine. It's balanced. It's the amount of sugar that you put in the coffee.
Yeah,
I don't
it's
put
all the
any
whipped
sugar.
cream and
No, I don't.
hazelnuts
Coffee for me is
and
just espresso.
all
That's
the
it.
syrup and all that
drink
stuff.
Drink it all day and not too much.
Yeah.
You end up with heart palpitations. But to have 13,000 clients, that for us was the transition out of PT and a nutritionist into the online world, I suppose. Yeah. And on the flip side of that, obviously the transition into business consultancy after my brother's suicide, because I was continuously doing these talks, but I was still stuck in the world of PT, and that meant waking up at 4 a.m, working from 5 to 9 p.m, fully booked out every single day. And it came to a head, I don't know, probably 10 years ago. I was at Ivy and we were partying, some best friend's birthday, we're having a great night. I was dancing, shirt was off. No, it wasn't off, but it was. And we were dancing, we were having a great night. And I said, I'm just going to sit down for a second. And then they woke me up really quickly, and I thought someone had started a fight or something of that nature. And I looked up and I said, is everything all right? And they're like, mate, you fell asleep on the stool. And I was like, you're joking? And they're like, mate, the joint's pumping. And my best mate said, mate, I love you, just go home. Yeah. At that point, I realised that PT was, I had to start to make a change. As much as it was great money per hour, I was trading time, for money. And at that point, I just went, mate, I've got to start to do something different. Those talks started to generate. I started to approach schools, corporate health and wellbeing, Aboriginal community projects, and that led into the diversity of the lifestyle program. So it wasn't just about training and nutrition anymore, but it was more about health and wellbeing projects that can change, everything from your mindset, nutrition, training, and everything else in between. And I think the thing I identified was a lot around people's set mindsets and how they were wired a particular way, their software, and how we had to get in, and a new update of Word as such had come in place, and we needed to implement that into that individual based around their likings, what made them happy, what their success looked like, what their quality of life would look like. Got an old couple at the moment that they're 70 plus. He couldn't reach down and pick up a coin, as an example, versus a young kid who does want to be as lean as they possibly can be. So
very different clients.
Versus, corporate health and wellbeing, ergonomics in the workplace, stress in the workplace, versus young kids and choosing the right foods or being active at school and finding what's good for yourself. Versus leadership programs, taking that step, challenging your fears. So we've got all these different sort of components to our business, and life's been transitional.
Out of interest, have you seen any themes around, and I'm going to cross over the fitness world and the business world.
Yep.
So if people are fit and they're prioritizing themselves and their fitness and what they're eating and what they're putting into their body, do you see them then thrive in the business world?
Absolutely. Because you got to think about Formula One as an example. Imagine you take the wing off a car and you try and race the car that's at the front of the pack. I can guarantee your lap time is going to slow down quite a lot.
Ferrari did that last week.
Oh, did they?
Leclerc took off Vettel's wing. Horrible. 2 DNFs. Let's not talk about it.
And
He's still cut up about it. Can you tell?
Just a little bit. I love Formula One as well, and I always, you got to think about they're acting at the highest level of what they can. So they're trying to get every single thing. I'm trying to do the same thing through the lifestyle program, but then pass that on to everyday people so that they perform at their best. And I know as soon as you drop off your foods, as an example, you can't drive from A to B and it's 500 Ks with 400 Ks of petrol. You're going to run out of petrol. So to be able to educate people and say, hey, by doing this, and here's the benefits and values towards your life, your quality of life, your success and your happiness, you're going to be better. It's a no-brainer because you light that person's light up because they've never seen it before. And all of a sudden they go, oh, that's what it looks like. And then they start to implement it around how they do as an individual. You like paninis? Go and eat the panini every Friday night with your partner and enjoy that. But most of the time you're eating really well. And on a Wednesday night you have an ice cream. But the rest of it, you're training on a regular basis. The gratitude's there. You're thinking around positivity. You're eating well most of the time. And then it starts to become sustainable around you as an individual. As I said before, I've worked with Italian families where they have, mate, I've been there. Yeah. And the food's ridiculous. Like, I've eaten 10 chickens and they're like, don't you eat my food? You don't like my food? I'm like, I've eaten 10 chickens. And they're like, oh, you obviously don't like it.
That was entree, mate. Antipasti.
So to be able to work with that individual and say, hey, enjoy those get-togethers, but if you know that it's someone's birthday and you're all going to have a drink, Prosecco as an example at the Italians, and then there's a lot of food there as well, and that's a month away, lead up to that month and start to make great deposits to your own bank account around your health.
Your sweat equity.
Your sweat equity. And then you get to that point and you just enjoy it. I don't even think about it. I'm just down and there's 10 chickens and those paninis, protein. And you're enjoying the journey. And then it's not a task or a chore. It doesn't become something that sort of becomes unsustainable. You're actually enjoying the journey.
And then you bring that into the office as well. Yeah.
So how can people find you on the lifestyle program? How can people find you?
Yeah.
What's your handles?
My www.jeffreymorgan, JEFFREY.com.au. Jeffrey Morgan Lifestyle Program on Instagram. Jeffrey Morgan on YouTube. Jeffrey Morgan on LinkedIn.
Yeah, nice.
Jeffrey Morgan The Lifestyle Program on Facebook. If you jump on my personal, it's more around me and my family and things we do in general.
So what was your name?
Let me spell that out one more time.
Yeah, one more time. No, well, so I think we're going to wrap it up there, Jeff.
Absolutely awesome.
Thank you so much for coming on. That was one was a big eye opener, and two, it's really refreshing to hear not the trauma side of things, but how you can be so positive no matter what happens. You know, you always find the silver lining to that cloud. You know, you're always looking to learn something from everything that you sort of endure, and there's lessons to be learned in that. And I really appreciate you sharing your story today on Lifestyle Pirates. Thank you very much.
I appreciate you having me, and it's been great to share. And I honestly hope that someone that watches it can take away how to look at things different. You know, I'll go through trauma quite often, and or been through it quite often, and I'm going through something at the moment that's impacting me a lot in the background, but the rest of my life's really good.
Yeah.
For me, just a little message to end it off with: look at the positives of it. Yeah. Always look at the goodness of it and find something to be grateful for.
Exactly.
You'll change your whole mindset towards a healthier lifestyle.
Fantastic.
Thank
Legends. Thanks for having me.
Until next time. Cheers.
Ciao.
Next time.